Hello, my name is Karina Balbo. I'm next to my husband Hugh as well. We both own and run My Language Hub, a language service company providing the traditional translation services, interpreting and localization. We also work in the education sector, providing language classes in the major European languages and exam support, exam preparation as well, such as GCSEs, A-levels, IB as well. We work with International Baccalaureate. And we also provide language and cultural support and consultancy to businesses who want to export to Latin America. Now, in this first video, we're going to talk about a workshop we've been working on to support students to prepare them for their GCSEs in Spanish. I think it's important to point out that we are both Spanish speakers. I'm from Argentina, native Spanish speaker, and Hugh is a qualified teacher of Spanish. And so Hugh is going to explain a little bit more about this workshop.
Right, thanks Karina. So we ran this workshop last summer at a particularly sort of turbulent time for the exam boards, because they had just introduced a new specification, which was a move away from the traditional grading with letters from A downwards to what is now known as the number 9 to 1 specification, 9 being the highest number possible. Last summer it was a time of some confusion and misunderstanding and potentially even distrust of the new specification, because for the best will in the world, the teachers and students were still trying to get their heads around exactly what the new requirement was. But now the dust has settled, and we had that intensive workshop last year, which was really successful, where all the pupils who attended surpassed their predicted grade, which was fantastic feedback for us, and clearly the students and the parents were over the moon too. So with the added bonus of Karina and I having both examined with the new specification, we really were able to drill down and understand and get into the real nitty-gritty of what this new specification was asking of the pupils to produce. So that's exactly how we're going to have as the same format for this year's workshop. We're going to look at the 4 skill areas: the listening, reading, writing and speaking, but we're also going to go back to basics to a certain degree and look at the grammar. The grammar is nothing more, although it is a significant area, but nothing more than the rules of how the language works and how a pupil of that language or a learner of that language can follow those rules to create and produce their own language, their own foreign language, in whichever one it may be, but in this case obviously Spanish. So we're going to be able to work through those areas. But the big difference is that, and it's really important to stress that in no way are we denigrating from any of the fantastic work that the school's language teachers, who are incredibly dedicated and professional and passionate, denigrate from any of their efforts. But we like to see ourselves as exactly the same way as when I was teaching. When we came across a really good resource or a really good study guide, we would be putting it out to parents that this would probably be really useful for their children who were studying Spanish. And that's exactly what we want to achieve with our workshop, that it's seen as a really good way of supporting on a really low ratio basis, so not a class of 30, but a small group where I and Karina can get around and we can really understand where the areas that the pupils are finding more difficult, and explain to them in a really intelligible and understandable way how it works, and give them examples. And more than 9 times out of 10 we get the response, oh, I didn't realise it was that easy, because it's not rocket science, it's just, it needs to be understood. And that's why we go back to basics, because you have to have that foundation before you can move forward to any level. So in the next mini videos that we're going to record, we're going to look at those specific areas, for listening, reading, writing and speaking and grammar, and go through exactly what we will achieve through the process of the workshop, but also in the subsequent sessions that we will offer, where we will look at specifically those different areas, and people will be able to sign up, students will be able to sign up for those sessions themselves. So it all just remains for us to say see you later. In Spanish is hasta luego, and we'll see you soon.